We'll start welcoming everyone here to Gov School today, where we'll be talking about capability statements. Just as a reminder, when you do come in the room, let's make sure we have our mute setting on, and that'll help with the background and ensure everybody has a good experience with our session. If you do have questions, though, feel free to ask us those questions. This is going to be a live version. We are broadcasting live on YouTube as well. My name is Mark Knowles. I'm one of the founders of GovDirections, and we're here today to talk about capability statements. And the recording itself will be live on our YouTube channel at GovDirections. When you go to YouTube, just search it's youtube.com/GovDirections. And then we, let's see here, I'm going to start make sure we got everybody on mute, except our guest speaker today, which is Cynthia Harper. Dr. Harper is here with us to help us answer some questions. What we wanted to do today is really kind of focus on how to use the capability statement. And we're going to share with you some common ones that are out there. But as you know, GovSchool and GovAdvice is a platform that we provide to our members as services. GovSchools, where we kind of teach you to do it yourself. And then GovAdvice, we have technical experts like Dr. Harper here who can help you with various questions that you might have. That it can help you expand your business and grow your business. And so I want to welcome Cynthia. How are you doing today, Cynthia?
I am absolutely wonderful. Mark, how are you?
Good. Yeah. So we were a big Georgia Bulldog fan. So we're celebrating
yes,
today.
I
We're
know
running a
you
little slow today.
are.
Yeah.
So go Dogs. The whole world gets to see this and experience it with you. People are so excited, and that's go Dogs.
I agree. We did a lot of barking last night, but here we are today, and we've got a good room today. Some officials here who are interested in capability statements and learning a little bit more about them. I think you and I, we've got some background with working with government agencies, and we understand how those documents are used to really market our companies. And what do you think is really the number one purpose of the capability statement whenever you're preparing those?
Well, I think the number one reason to prepare it, you said, is that the question?
Yeah, I think so. What's the number one best use for them?
I mean, it's used to present your business. It's your resume. It's your marketing piece.
So I think it's clear that everyone needs a capability statement. That's the first thing to come to understanding. If you're going to work with government agencies, you need that one-page document that speaks to your company and helps make sure that governments understand what you're capable of providing.
Absolutely. It is, and because you know what it is, as you present your capability statement, as you know about the documents and all your codes that are listed, your NACE codes, and understand your core competencies and your about us, your executive summary, what differentiates you. When you learn all those things about your capability statement, as you're presenting it to those that you want to share it with, you can recite it because you should know your primary NACE code. One of the biggest things on a capability statement is the NACE code. And that's the service that you're rendering to, whether it's corporate or whether it's the government, if it's for a partnership, if it's for business relationships, you should understand what is your core competencies, or why would you present this capability statement to this agency or this partner or this company. Why? Well, they're looking for someone to help them do graphic design or business training and development. So you wouldn't talk to them about the other services that you offer, but you would take advantage of what's on your capability statement and discuss that thing that they're looking for. Because ultimately you want to show them that you are the subject matter expert in whatever that they're looking for to make themselves complete in the projects, because none of us have it all. I mean,
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would, say, some of you are brand new. The NACE Code is the North American Industry Classification System. It is a primary system used by the federal government to identify what your services are that you provide. So, like, for example, I do human resource consulting. I have a particular NACE code that I will put on my capability statement so that when the government picks it up and we have that match, It really says, yes, this is what Mark Knowles does, and this is how he can best serve our company, serve our agency. And they know that I know what I'm talking about because I'm able to give them that code. And we'll talk a little bit more about the codes as we step forward in the presentation. So what is it not, Cynthia? You know, this is one thing, the slides you have.
Sure. Let me enlarge this. One thing it's not a trifode. It's not it's not a really fancy, beautiful document with lots. I'm trying to see what we have here. For some reason, I can't see it, but that's all good. One thing a capability statement is not, though, it's not a trifode. It's not some elaborate document that's just selling the beauty of everything, but it's very informative. It is not, it's not, excuse me, so it is not a, it's just not a document that's not detailed for what the government's looking for. So yeah, I see it, Mark. For some reason it won't enlarge, but that's all good. It's fine, we're fine.
So just as a reminder, we saw oftentimes we see a lot of different collateral that a company may have. This is the flyer that you may be using or promotional material, and it's all glitzy and everything is great for your company, and you might be leaving this to help sell, but that's not a capability statement. The capability statement was, as Dr. Harper has indicated, has clear pieces of information that you need in order to present yourself to the organization. Oftentimes they're used when they're doing a request for information or a source of salt. This is whenever they'll say, send this in, so we want to get you on the short list. And if you don't have that ready to go, then you're not going to be someone who's actually included in that contract listing. Other times when there's actually a request for qualifications, or this is whenever you're a specialized service like an engineer or an architect or a lawyer, or you have a particular type of professional service that you provide, and then they'll do the request for qualification. And so, you know, here's a great slide you have put together in terms of words. It's a word cloud, and so maybe discuss that. Why is it so important to have the right words on your capability statement?
Absolutely. You know, when creating a capability statement, you want to make sure that whoever you're presenting this capability statement to, that they understand, you understand government lingo. And so you have words in there that talk about deadlines and procurement. You have words that fit that environment. There was a slang we used to use when I was in IT, and it was called the common business vocabulary. Understand that in the government market, it's imperative that we understand their language. And so they can look at your capability statement and understand whether you understand the language or not. So the structure of the language is important.
So when going back to my own capability statement, when I'm talking about human resource consultant, I don't need to switch over and say, yeah, you know, I also do, sometimes I do services like custodial services or something like that. So I want to be focused and have that language speak specifically to that capability that I'm trying to make sure the government matches to. And so if I have multiple services that I provide or supplies, or, you know, a lot of us are entrepreneurial, we do that, then I might want to have 2 or 3 different capability statements that could then be put in place for just that bid that I'm potentially responding to. I don't need to be telling them if they're looking for an HR consultant. I don't need to be telling them about all the other things that I do. I need to be focused on that particular NACE code there.
And not only that, here we go. Here, another thing you have to understand. Although we try to be all things to all people, that's not wise in your capability statement. But what we do need to understand is any NACE code or anything that you've listed on your capability statement, it must match inside of the systems award management, meaning inside of SAMS. And oftentimes we'd like to put, I have a lady now that I'm working with, and she gave me all of these codes. And I said, are these codes listed inside of SAMS? And she said, no. And I said, well, then that you're not going to be recognized for that within the industry. So make sure that you consistently upgrade, but when you upgrade your capability statement with the right language, the right information, never leave out SAMS, and always check with your website as well.
So, you know, once again, for this very new folks, SAM is a system for award management. And basically it's the accounts payable system for the federal government. So they're getting you set up in order to make you an award in the future. And that's the goal, so, but you need to be set up and ready to go in order to do that. And so as a part of that registration, you're required to tell the federal government, what business are you in? And in there, they're going to ask you specifically about your capabilities. And so oftentimes what our users will do, our members, you'll have that capability statement prepared. And then as you're registered in SAM or you go back and do an update, you need to make sure it matches, just like Dr. Harper just said, so that each NAICS is selected. And that's very important. I know I was just looking here at the disasters that we're seeing on the West Coast right now. And this, we have hurricanes in the south, and we have earthquakes also in the west, and fires in the west. But right now, there is a bad situation in a lot of communities, and so they're going to be using emergency debris removal, emergency services to get back in there, and hiring companies to come in and help them. And that's routine all over the country. So making sure your NAICS codes match the capability statement, so you can ship that off to them quickly. And then when they look you up, they have your unique identifying number, you have your NAICS codes, and then they're able to make you an award straight up. Oftentimes with those types of bids that are there, the emergency response bids. And so that's very important. That's just one benefit of having it pulled together.
Absolutely. So let's talk about what happens if you don't have a capability statement. Well, actually, it's a shut door for you. It's just, you just can't enter in, because oftentimes when we enter bids, they ask for your capability statement as well. And if you don't have one, then you can't even enter in the door. You can't present it at an industry day, which that's when certain agencies hold together an event to share their upcoming procurement and what they're looking for. And you're invited to that. But if you can't present a capability statement at that event, the company sitting next to you might be looking for you. But if you don't have a capability statement, then you can't even participate, within the market to be considered as a government client.
And, we've only talked about the federal government right now, which is, I would say maybe 2 out of 5 announcements now require you to submit your capability statement straight up, oftentimes before they will even let you into to be on the pre-approved list to bid on a project. So you got to have that ready to go. But, stepping out to that industry day where you of course, there's not a specific opportunity that you're responding to, but they know what they're going to be spending money on in the coming year. It's a $6 trillion marketplace. They've got an idea where they want the big contracts are coming from. And so having that capability statement ready to distribute at the industry day or in that state and local government where use the exact same document might as well. They're familiar with NAICS codes, but there you might want to stick on the NIGP commodity codes, National Institute for Government Purchasing, or if you're in a particular state like California or Texas, they'll have their own coding system. And so you want to make sure you mention those codes as well. And all that does is, because if these procurement officers, they really understand the coding system. You may not understand it as well right now, but they do. And so whenever you have the right code on there, that's like an instant match. It's very important to have that ready to go. And like Dr. Harper just said, if you don't have it, then it's potentially a shut door. And we have those doors up there on purpose there. But we want you going through all of those doors there. So what are the different kind of versions of those?
So there's several kind of versions of capability statements. You have some that are required for, RFI, which is really just request for information or the request for proposal. These are different versions because sometimes the government is not looking for, they already know what they're looking for. They just want you to answer it to see if you can fulfill it. So you need to be prepared for requests for proposals, requests for information, understanding the difference in sources sought. And Mark, explain the sources sought really good for them, why this is so important, particularly for certain designations, that if you are qualified with a certain capability statement, you don't even have to bid.
So, basically in government, there's a decision-making process. And, if the first step is to say, what are we trying to accomplish? It could come from, a group of folks going up and say, we want to redo the playground, in the community. And they go through the process of deciding how much money they want to spend. And then they go out and say, we want to know everyone who provides playground equipment, because we want to make sure you have an opportunity to help us and to provide the services that we're seeking, because governments themselves are not going to do that work. We have we have a philosophy that we in the United States where we want to actively engage the private sector. So once that decision is made, then they want to make sure everyone's treated fairly. And so they give you that opportunity to tell them, yes, I'm a source. I'm a source for merry-go-rounds. I'm a source for gravel. I'm a source for rubber flooring in the gym. And so you're telling them that, and that's how that document comes back to them. And you have some visuals on your capability statement. You have the right NACE code assigned to flooring or to assign to playground equipment. And then that gives you a good match. And then they take that group and then they say, here you are, we have a marketplace. And we're going to now issue the actual bid or invitation to bid or the invitation to proposal. The good thing is maybe you're the only one, and maybe there's one or two that respond and say, here, I'm the only source for this right in this area. Those governments can go straight to contract at that point. They can go to a sole source environment, or they basically bring you to the table and help you with that. In fact, not only, we talk about just a capability statement, that's a one-page document that says about your company, but also, as you step forward, go ahead and draft that perfect RFP that you might use to hire yourself. Okay, and so that the government knows exactly what you do, and then they can use that potentially in their own RFP. And the request for information, there it's more global, where they basically say, this is kind of what we're trying to achieve. You're a subject matter expert. Please tell us how we want to go about doing that. And they'll want to look on your capability statement and see that you've got the technical knowledge to do that. Okay. Oftentimes you see those with technology upgrades or going in with a particular type of engineering type services. Now, the request for proposal, they usually know what they're trying to accomplish there, and they've got an established method. And what they're trying to do there is making sure that you match up and that you have the capabilities or the qualifications they need in order to accomplish their objective. So there's just different types of way you use those. And when you build your capability statement, you're speaking to all of that, okay, in one page. Okay, so it's difficult to narrow it down there.
Yep. And so sometimes you can send in, as Mark was saying, a targeted capability statement, just targeted for certain RFP or RFI. There's just certain times. Then you can do a general one, or you can do one, we talked about source to sought. So there are several forms of a capability statement, but generally on the safe side, one good capability statement with your specific skill set. Because what we want to sell the government is, in the beginning and anyway, that we are the SME. We're the one they're looking for. What you looking for, I do exactly this. Because oftentimes on capability statements, people say, well, tell them I do this and I do that and I do this. Well, that's not important for what they're looking for, because they don't have a lot of time. When you attend what we called days when we sit around with the procurement managers and directors and other companies like you, and they're sharing to you what is coming up for our agency, you need to go in there with a capability statement that's targeted to what you do, because you've answered that RF. You've taken the invitation to come in to meet with this agency. There are probably other 30 other like companies as yourself. You wanted to show that you stand out.
You believe me, that's important. I mean, I don't want to be Debbie Downer on some of this, but the truth of the matter is just 1,000 new individuals coming into the government sector every day, new companies every single day who are trying to, get part of that $6 trillion marketplace. It can be done if you follow the right steps and you go in and you sell yourself in the right way. Okay, and that is so important. And targeting, the number one thing I teach in my class, there's one tomorrow we have on our 8-week series. If you have an interest, call us and we'll get you slotted in as a user. But the first thing is targeting and pinpointing, and don't get overwhelmed. There's 5,000 new calls for bids and proposals every single day. And that can just be overwhelming. So you got to target, and you got to, whenever you see that, you got to know exactly what you're looking for. And the first way to do that is sometimes I call it indicators of success. And you got to match that RFP up to your capabilities. And as many times as you can do that from that statement, you're going to have a better chance of winning that contract. Okay. And so that's a way to engage. So whenever I look at an RFP or an invitation to bid, if I don't see a match to my capabilities and the things I'm looking for, right away, I just move on. it's just too much time wasted. There's too much other opportunity to pursue. And so that's important. So targeting and getting that, and then that general is just making sure that you broadcast yourself as much as possible. Start marketing, build that capability statement so it's interactive, that's on your website. And whenever I click through, I see a video of what you do. I see samples of your work. Make it easy, especially when you're doing the general ones. It's going to really show you, because you can go into a file. I just won a contract recently. I'm working with a statewide emergency management group and doing some calculations for them. And literally, they pulled me out of their file. They called me, and then I engaged. The contract didn't get to a level where they needed a competitive bid. And so when I have that targeted, I've reached out to them. They can make that, and they can start that contract very quickly with you.
Absolutely.
We've talked. Go ahead.
No, good, Mark. And we talked about these codes. It's just important that you understand the NACE codes, the PSC codes, your SIC codes, and your NIGP codes, because different agencies and different people really, really look for those. You can't have too many. You can in the beginning, but you really can't have too many NACE codes if you are actually working in that field. However, make sure that what you note on your capability statement, make sure that what they're looking for. These are the services that we offer. Understand PSC codes. What are they for? And what I like about the North American Industry Classification System now, they have upgraded the system. It is so sophisticated. You can click on a button and it describes everything what that code represents and what it leads to. They've really, in fact, all of these agencies since 2019, 2020 have upgraded their systems, and they've made things so, I can't say it's easy, but they certainly have made them very, where you can, they're hands-on. They're very hands-on.
Yeah, I teach a class at the graduate levels in graduate school to future procurement officers. And one thing I make them do for the first 2 weeks is start learning all the acronyms. Okay. I know some of this is foreign language to you, but governments, you got to speak to talk. The first person you're really trying to get by is that procurement officer, and they are all about codes. So if you're not familiar with some of these, go and take a look at them. But the North American Industry Classification System, product service codes, standard industrial classification, the National Institute for Governmental Purchasing, the CAGE code is for you working with the Defense Department. Your DUNS number, not so important anymore. You have the unique identifier number. Yeah, that's assigned to you when you registered SAM. Most of these aren't even used at the state and local level. You still need to know them. Okay. Certifications. The number one thing I hear from folks is, I'm waiting until I get certified. If you wait till you get certified, you're going to go out of business. Okay. So you need to go ahead and step in there and start working, and then seek out certifications. That's like a bonus. And so try for these additional certifications. Some of them are easy. HubZone, for example, not difficult. Some of them are self-declared, and especially at the state and local. But certifications are primary for set-asides. Set-asides are typically only at the federal level. Set-asides meaning only the groups that have that certification can bid within that NACE code. Okay. At the local government level and state government, we typically use preferences. A preference means everybody can bid. And then if you're a woman-owned business or minority-owned business, we can show preference to you and give you some additional points for that if I have a plan in place to do that. And as Dr. Harper said, all of this is really becoming, because of the use of technology, everybody's really upgrading. I mean, just what we've done recently at our site, rfpdelivery.com, now you can go in and do a geo-based locator for just your NACE code. And so you can see, here's the NACE code I want to serve. And then we pull those up, and I'll show you all the bids and located where they're at down to the street block. And then you can go in there, pursue things that are kind of local to you. You'll have a better shot at your own backyard. So this is becoming more and more, and in the way we use things. And contract vehicles, go ahead.
No, and I just wanted to remind people that don't hesitate not to register with your city and your county, because those are contracts too. Those are state and local contracts. And it shows federal that if you have worked with the city on multiple contracts or one contract, whether it was 20,000 or 10,000 or 10 million, you have the expertise and the knowledge to complete a contract. Remember to do that, to get registered locally first. That's very important.
In fact, it makes smart business sense, because the truth of the matter is there are 20 contracts at the local and state level for every one at the federal government level. When people first come to us, they've looked at the federal government, but to be honest with you, you can get lost in that process. And so it's not impossible, but it just takes you a little bit of knowledge. So like Dr. Harper says, step in, make sure you register your state. It's not complicated. It is at the federal level. State and local governments, they can get you in their system in a few minutes usually. Choose your largest county, choose your largest city in your area, learn how it works. Most of them you can register over time as you bid. So don't just, if you sit around and try to register with all 140,000 agencies, you waste, you'll go under again. I'm just telling you. Okay, just the largest ones, and learn how it works. It's also a great way for you to go and learn how to bid at the local government level, especially when you're starting to look at partnerships, teaming, or subcontracting. And not one person has done this. So you obviously haven't taken my class today because the first thing I always say is when you come to a session like this, the first thing you want to do is make sure your name is right on your Zoom. Okay. Because you're going to be, a lot of times you're going to go to pre-proposal meetings online. Nowadays, we just changed the way we're doing things, but also in the chat, just go ahead and drop in your capability statement. Say, here, this is who I am. And others who might be thinking about something will then download your capability statement and potentially call you up and partner with you. I bet most of our business is through subcontracting. When I work with governments, and what I do typically is I do human resource consulting. I'll go have my capability statement ready to go, and when they go around and say, "Introduce yourself," which is almost always done these days, I say, "I'm interested in subcontracting. Here's my capabilities. I'm not even here for the main contract." And then others will potentially reach out to me. And this is why you want to put me on your team, because I'm doing this. Be ready for all that. Okay. So these are some pointers as we go along. What are these C's, Cynthia?
Well, these are the 6 C's of a capability statement. Actually, you have to have your core competencies. What do you do core? What are you the expert in? Well, you have your company data. A lot of times that's your about us or your executive summary. Make sure that those C's are just enough for them to read, not a whole book, just enough for them to glance at. Because understand, when you present your capability statement, you're probably one among 50 or 60. So make sure the information is something they can glance at, get the information they need, keywords are in there, and they can move forward. You have your you can talk about your core competencies. They need to be bulleted, something quick, service or products you offer, short sentence fragments, not long narratives. Select your key offerings. And what's important is that you relate your offerings, again, to meet the agency. So you're telling them, this is our core, the center of what we do. These are some of the things in your C's that you need to understand that makes you lead the pack. The next one, let's talk about your company data. Brief pertinent history of your company. When were you founded? Are you a legacy business? Are you a warehouse? Can they find you? Do they understand that if they're looking for someone to store masks or to purchase masks, where are they stored at? Are they in a cool place? I just went through this with a company. They discovered that where the masks were, that the facility did not keep the product well. And so they had defaulted product. And that's because when they listed their information, they went and did the research themselves. So company data, keep your things updated. That's another one of your C's. Teams, your partners, whether, who are you? What makes you strong? Do you have certifications industry certifications? Are you Six Sigma? Are you lean at what you do? Do you understand the agency's needs versus the industry's standards? There are standards within the industry. Are you PMI certified? All of those things help with your core expertise. These are some of the C's that they're looking for, because what you want to show them is we're ready. We're capable to fulfill this job. Who are your clients and your customers? And listen, just because you've never done work on the state or the city or the local or the federal government. Your customers could have been internal customers from corporate America. As long as you have performed and used this skill set somewhere and you truly understand it, you can actually list that as a client and a customer. If you worked with a small company like myself, you can list that as a client and a customer because you know how to satisfy a customer. So that's another one of your C's. And then your contact information. You know, things have changed now. Everything is casual. I'm not a person, I didn't enjoy doing Zoom at first because I'm a live person, but this is the way people are going to remember me now. Proper contact information. And if you have, hotdaddy@gmail.com, they're not going to take you serious. Did you relocate? Did you switch out your information? Have you changed your email address? What are the things on your contact information that are pertinent for people to reach you? Because a lot of times we switch and change and make, we upgrade, but do we change the information on paper where those who are looking for us can identify us? So it's real important that your contact information is absolutely updated and professional. And if you get a website, they sell emails with your website. So you need C. Harper at C. Harper Enterprises. You need, M. Knowles at govdirections.com. Make sure that your things are professionally done.
And so, one thing I just did is I changed it to make sure it says Gov Directions there on my name. I'm not sure if it's showing up on your participant list, but it's a real easy task. You just click more and on the side and you can rename and make sure you get that in there in the correct way. And marketing is what it's all about, folks. It's always about marketing. So, we didn't talk about the one thing I always push too, and this is part of the ABCs of writing, accuracy, brevity, and clarity. Be clear on your work, not a lot of fluff. Okay. It should speak exactly what you wanted to say. The wording, always my children, when they write, I say, retype that sentence so you only have one word. That less words are better, and take out anytime you have a duplicate word, take it out. Okay. And reframe that and practice on it, because this is really your selling card in government. And you want to make sure that you do it correctly. So that's our presentation today. We'll be glad to answer any questions you might have. We do have some samples of capability statements to here that we typically provide, but you can kind of go in and see how they look. But these are the ones that Dr. Harper has actually helped our clients with. We do have this through our Gov Advice service, and she can serve as a technical resource to you, and we can provide that. If you have any interest, just give us a call at Gov Directions. It's 800-492-8523, and we will be glad to put you in touch and get that taken care of, Dale or myself or whoever we have here. Any final comments, Cynthia?
Nope, just use your capability statement, and don't be afraid to bid. I think oftentimes people come in the government market and they see these bids, but it's overwhelming. Seek out professional help. We do have a lady that works with us at Gov Directions. Tammy is phenomenal to help you write your bids. Guys, don't be afraid to bid, and people will charge you. If you can't do it yourself, be prepared to pay so that you can win or get closer to win. And one of the things I like about Tammy, who works at Gov Directions, if she doesn't think that you're qualified to win a bid, she's going to be honest with you and not take your money. She is very fair and equitable.
And Tammy is actually independent. She works with a small business women's group, and she's the one I just always refer to because she is a great source. And she actually will do some sessions coming up, and I would encourage you to take those. But this is a complimentary session that we provide at GovDirect. Those others are more specific to you, and there is a small cost for those. But it is something that you can invest in, and you can learn, and it will pay dividends in the future over and over again. Learning to write your RFP, learning to respond to it in the right way, making sure that you've got your certifications in place. That is just so important in your business growth. Any final questions? This is one of our series. It's going to be available on YouTube here in just a minute, and you can go and watch it and pull it back up. And I'm going to stop that process now. Any questions though? Thank you all and have a great morning.